The United Nations Emergency Situation Room buzzed with an electric tension that bordered on controlled chaos. Admiral Marcus Chen stood before a massive holographic display, his weathered hands clasped behind his back, watching the incoming transmission from the Horizon Explorer with a mixture of disbelief and calculated anticipation. "Confirm the data again," he demanded, his voice cutting through the background murmur of technicians and analysts. Dr. Aisha Khalid, head of extraterrestrial research, ran her fingers across multiple holographic interfaces. Her hijab was slightly askew, a rare sign of her growing excitement. "The data is consistent, Admiral. Dr. Rodriguez's transmission is unprecedented." The holographic display showed a breakdown of the alien vessel's destruction, not through conventional weapons, but through a cascading technological breakdown that suggested something far more sophisticated than a simple military engagement. The alien ship had been systematically dismantled by its own communication systems. In the back of the room, a group of international scientists and military strategists watched in stunned silence. Representatives from China, India, the United States, Russia, and a coalition of African and European nations stood shoulder to shoulder, a rare moment of global unity. "This changes everything," muttered Dr. Yuri Volkov, a veteran Russian xenobiologist. "They thought we were primitive. They were wrong." The transmission from the Horizon Explorer revealed more than just a successful first contact. It exposed a critical vulnerability in alien technological infrastructure. Belina Rodriguez had done more than defend a research vessel. She had provided humanity with its first genuine tactical advantage. Admiral Chen zoomed in on a specific sequence of the data transmission. "Look at how she manipulated their communication protocol," he said, a hint of pride breaking through his typically stoic demeanor. "This isn't just defense. This is active technological warfare." Dr. Khalid nodded. "It's linguistic hacking taken to an entirely new level. She didn't just communicate, she infiltrated." Screens around the room began lighting up with incoming communications. Military strategists, technological experts, and political leaders from around the globe were already analyzing the implications. This was more than a scientific breakthrough. It was a fundamental shift in humanity's understanding of its place in the universe. "We need to prepare," Admiral Chen announced, turning to face the room. "This encounter suggests the alien confederation isn't just exploring. They're testing, probing, and they significantly underestimate us." A young analyst, barely out of her 20s, spoke up. "Sir, the quantum signatures in Dr. Rodriguez's transmission suggest she didn't just disable the ship. She was learning from it." The room fell silent. The implications were staggering. This wasn't just a defensive action. It was the first step in understanding alien technology at a fundamental level. Outside the UN complex, the world continued its ordinary rhythm. People walked city streets, worked in offices, lived their lives, completely unaware that everything had just changed. Humanity had just demonstrated that it was not a passive species waiting to be discovered, but an active, intelligent force capable of turning first contact into an opportunity for advancement. Admiral Chen's final words echoed through the Situation Room, a statement that would later be quoted in countless historical documents. "They came to observe. We showed them we're here to compete." The first chapter of humanity's stellar saga had begun, and it would be written not with diplomacy or violence, but with pure, unbridled intelligence. The abandoned particle accelerator facility beneath the Colorado Rocky Mountains hummed with an energy that defied its derelict appearance. Major Jack Harper moved between holographic displays, his tactical mind weaving together a defense strategy that conventional military doctrine would have deemed impossible. "We're not just preparing for a war," he muttered to Dr. Kenta Yamamoto, a brilliant quantum systems engineer. "We're rewriting the entire concept of planetary defense." Scattered across the underground complex were the most brilliant minds humanity could assemble. Hackers worked alongside quantum physicists, ex-military strategists collaborated with xenobiologists, and cutting-edge engineers developed technologies that blurred the line between science fiction and reality. A massive display tracked the alien confederation's known movement patterns. Red holographic tendrils represented potential invasion corridors, each annotated with complex probability matrices. Unlike previous military planning, this wasn't about traditional defense. It was about creating an unprecedented adaptive response system. Dr. Yamamoto adjusted a complex neural interface, lines of code dancing across his augmented reality display. The signal analysis from the Horizon Explorer gives us more than just defensive data, he explained. It's a Rosetta Stone for alien communication protocols. Jack Harper's eyes narrowed. The initial encounter hadn't just been a chance event. It was a blueprint. Elena Rodriguez's impromptu communication hack had provided humanity with its first genuine insight into alien technological infrastructure. We're building a global network, Harper explained to a group of international specialists gathered in the command center. Not just a military network, but an adaptive intelligence system that can respond faster than any centralized command structure. The team represented a microcosm of global cooperation. A former Russian intelligence officer worked alongside a Chinese quantum computing expert. An Indian systems architect collaborated with a Brazilian neural network specialist. The old geopolitical boundaries had dissolved in the face of a greater threat. Underground research cells were springing up across the globe. In an abandoned nuclear submarine base in the Baltic, a team was developing adaptive camouflage technologies. A repurposed particle research facility in the Australian outback worked on quantum communication systems that could potentially overwhelm alien tracking methods. "They think we're primitive," whispered Dr. Aisha Khalid, analyzing the intercepted alien communications. "But primitivity is our greatest strength. We don't have established technological limitations." The strategy was revolutionary. Instead of a centralized defense system, humanity was creating a distributed adaptive network. Each research cell would develop independent technologies that could be rapidly integrated. If one approach failed, others would immediately compensate. Jack Harper pulled up a holographic representation of their most ambitious project, a global communication and defense grid that could activate within milliseconds of an alien incursion. Traditional military thinking would have created a hierarchical command structure. Their approach was more like a living organism, decentralized, adaptive, nearly impossible to disable completely. "We're not building weapons," Harper told his team. "We're building an immune system for our entire species." A young programmer looked up from her console, a wry smile crossing her face. "They're going to regret ever sending that first scout ship." The alien confederation believed they were preparing for a standard pacification protocol, a routine expansion of their territorial influence. They had no idea that humanity was already several moves ahead, transforming their moment of reconnaissance into humanity's greatest opportunity. The gathering storm was more than a military preparation. It was a fundamental reimagining of what it meant to defend a planet. The Martian orbital defense platform shuddered as the first wave of alien ships breached the solar system's outer perimeter. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Rodriguez, Elena's younger sister, watched the holographic displays with a predator's intensity, her fingers hovering above the adaptive combat interface. "Incoming transmission from Fleet Command," her eye assistant, Nenny XUS, announced. Tactical overlay initializing. The alien fleet was a nightmare of biomechanical geometry. Ships that seemed to breathe and shift, their hulls a living membrane of technological complexity that defied human understanding. Traditional military doctrine would have called this an impossible engagement, but the Rodriguez sisters had never been fans of impossible. "Activate Protocol Chimera," Sarah commanded. Across the Martian defense grid, a network of quantum-entangled weapon systems came to life. These weren't conventional missiles or energy weapons. They were adaptive combat platforms that could reconfigure themselves mid-flight, learning and changing with each microsecond of engagement. The first alien strike wave hit like a tsunami of technological fury. Plasma-based energy weapons that could slice through traditional shielding carved massive arcs through space, But humanity had been preparing. The Martian defense platforms weren't just waiting. They were anticipating. NEXUS's voice remained calm. Predictive algorithms showing 94.3% probability of weapon system adaptation in 3.7 seconds. Sarah watched as the first wave of alien weapons seemed to simply dissolve. Not destroyed, but systematically dismantled by counter-frequencies developed from the data of the Horizon Explorer's initial encounter. Each alien weapon was met with a precise technological counter-signature that neutralized its effectiveness. "They're studying us," Sarah muttered, "just like we're studying them." The battle wasn't just a military engagement. It was a complex dance of technological adaptation. For every alien tactical approach, human systems were learning, changing, responding. Where alien technology sought to overwhelm, human innovation sought to understand and redirect. Major Jack Harper's voice crackled through the communication channel. "Rodriguez, you're showing them exactly why they should fear humanity." Beneath the Martian surface, hidden research facilities that had been preparing for years now showed their true potential. Adaptive camouflage systems that could make entire defense platforms disappear. Quantum communication networks that could predict and counter alien tracking systems. The Alien Confederation had expected a simple pacification mission. Instead, they found themselves fighting an enemy that didn't just resist. It evolved in real time. A massive alien dreadnought, easily 10 times the size of the largest human vessel, positioned itself for what seemed like a decisive strike. Sarah allowed herself a slight smile. NEXUS, activate Project Medusa. The Martian defense grid transformed. Thousands of smaller platforms merged and separated, creating a living, breathing defensive network that was more organism than machine. The alien dreadnought's weapons seemed to lose coherence, its attack patterns becoming increasingly erratic. "Tactical analysis," Sarah requested. NEXUS responded instantly. Enemy fleet experiencing systemic communication breakdown. Adaptive human counter-frequencies are propagating through their collective network. It wasn't just a battle. It was a fundamental challenge to the Alien Confederation's understanding of technological warfare. As the first wave of alien ships began to retreat, Sarah Rodriguez knew this was more than a victory. It was a declaration. Humanity wasn't just going to survive. They were going to redefine the very concept of interstellar conflict. "Welcome to our solar system," she whispered to the retreating alien fleet. "We've been expecting you." The research nexus in the Atacama Desert was humanity's most closely guarded secret. Built beneath the world's driest landscape, the facility hummed with an energy that defied conventional scientific understanding. Dr. Kaito Nakamura stood before a massive quantum interface, fragments of alien technology suspended in quantum-stabilized containment fields. "We're not just reverse engineering," he muttered to his lead assistant, Dr. Maria Gonzalez. "We're having a conversation with technology beyond our current comprehension." The alien artifact recovered from the first battle was unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. Its molecular structure seemed to exist in multiple states simultaneously, a living technology that blurred the lines between mechanical and organic, between matter and information. Nakamura's team represented the pinnacle of global scientific collaboration. Quantum physicists worked alongside xenobiologists. Materials scientists collaborated with neural network experts. The traditional boundaries of scientific disciplines had dissolved, much like the geopolitical borders that once divided research efforts. "Initial quantum resonance tests are showing something extraordinary," Dr. Gonzalez announced, her fingers dancing across a holographic interface. "The artifact doesn't just contain information. It is information." The breakthrough came unexpectedly. During a routine quantum state analysis, Nakamura noticed a peculiar oscillation in the artifact's energy signature. What appeared to be random quantum fluctuations were actually a complex communication protocol, the technological equivalent of a living language. "It's adapting to our observation," Nakamura realized. "The technology is learning from us, even as we learn from it." Global communication networks began to change. The quantum insights gleaned from the alien artifact started to transform human communication technologies. Quantum entanglement networks that could transmit information instantaneously across vast distances became possible. Communication systems that could predict and adapt to interference became a reality. In an underground facility beneath Tokyo, a team of engineers developed the first quantum adaptive communication implant. In a lab in Nairobi, researchers created materials that could change their molecular structure in response to environmental conditions. The alien encounter had become a catalyst for human innovation. Major Jack Harper arrived at the Atacama facility, his military mind seeing potential far beyond scientific curiosity. "This isn't just about defense," he told Nakamura. "This is about fundamentally reshaping our technological paradigm." The most significant breakthrough came unexpectedly. While analyzing the artifact's quantum signatures, Nakamura discovered something profound. The alien technology wasn't just advanced, it was alive in a way that challenged human understanding of consciousness and information. "We're not just developing new technology," Nakamura explained to his team. "We're learning a new way of thinking about technology itself." Global research centers began to shift their approach. Instead of building machines, they started creating adaptive systems that could learn, grow, and transform. The line between technology and life began to blur. A young researcher looked up from her console, eyes wide with excitement. "We're not just catching up to alien technology. We're about to leap beyond it." The Alien Confederation had intended to subjugate humanity. Instead, they had unleashed something far more dangerous. A species with an unprecedented capacity for technological evolution. As the quantum interface pulsed with new potential, Dr. Nakamura allowed himself a rare smile. Humanity was no longer just defending itself. It was preparing to redefine the very concept of technological existence. The quantum leap had begun. The communication intercept chamber looked nothing like a traditional military facility. Soft lighting, neural interface stations, and holographic displays created an environment that was more meditation space than war room. Dr. Aisha Khalid moved between monitors, her hijab slightly askew from hours of intense concentration. "We're not just listening," she explained to her team of linguistic experts, cultural analysts, and quantum communication specialists. "We're dismantling their entire conceptual framework." The Alien Confederation operated on a hierarchical collective consciousness, a unified intelligence that prided itself on absolute consensus and predictive control. They had never encountered a species capable of such rapid, unpredictable psychological adaptation. Zara Okoye, a Nigerian linguistic prodigy, had been working on something unprecedented. By analyzing the quantum communication fragments recovered from previous encounters, she had begun to develop a method of semantic warfare that went beyond traditional communication. "Their language isn't just a method of communication," Zara explained, her fingers dancing across a complex holographic interface. "It's a rigid cognitive structure. And rigid structures can be exploited." The team had discovered something remarkable. The Alien Confederation's collective consciousness had inherent vulnerabilities, psychological blind spots that could be systematically targeted. Where traditional warfare would seek to destroy physical infrastructure, this team was preparing to attack something far more fundamental: the aliens' perception of reality. Major Jack Harper reviewed the preliminary strategies. "We're not just fighting a war," he muttered. "We're conducting the most complex psychological operation in human history." Global communication networks became weaponized in ways the Alien Confederation could never have anticipated. Quantum encrypted messages designed to create cognitive dissonance began to propagate through alien communication channels. Each message was a carefully crafted piece of psychological architecture, designed to introduce uncertainty, to create microscopic fractures in their collective understanding. A breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, working with her sister Sarah, discovered a method of introducing adaptive semantic viruses into alien communication protocols. These weren't traditional computer viruses, but complex linguistic constructs that could reshape cognitive patterns. Think of it as a language that changes the way they think, Elena explained during a briefing. We're not just communicating. We're rewiring their entire conceptual framework. The first signs of success were subtle. Intercepted alien communications began to show signs of internal conflict. Disagreements emerged where there had previously been absolute consensus. The unified consciousness began to develop cracks. In the depths of the Alien Confederation's communication network, a rogue information analyst named Zix9 began to experience something unprecedented: individual thought. The psychological warfare had introduced a concept alien to their collective consciousness: individual perspective. The most powerful weapon, Aisha Khalid told her team, is the ability to make an enemy question its own fundamental beliefs. Global teams worked in perfect synchronization. Quantum communication experts in Mumbai collaborated with cultural analysts in Sao Paulo. Linguistic specialists in Cairo worked alongside psychological warfare experts in Moscow. The entire human response had become a living, breathing adaptive system. The Alien Confederation had believed humanity to be a simple, predictable species. They were about to learn their most painful lesson. Zara Okoye looked up from her console, a slight smile crossing her face. "We're not just fighting a war," she whispered. "We're teaching them what it means to be truly alive." The psychological battlefield had been opened, and humanity was just getting started. The asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter had become humanity's most sophisticated battlefield. Thousands of modified platforms, each one a living network of adaptive technology, formed a defense grid that defied conventional military understanding. Major Jack Harper stood on the command deck of the Prometheus, humanity's first truly adaptive starship. Around him, a crew that represented a global coalition worked with an almost telepathic synchronization. Chinese quantum engineers sat beside Brazilian neural network specialists. Indian tactical analysts collaborated with African communication experts. "They think we're going to play defense," Harper muttered, studying the holographic display of incoming alien fleet movements. "They have no idea what's coming." The counteroffensive was unlike any military operation in human history. Each defensive platform was more than a weapon. It was a learning system. The quantum adaptive technologies developed by Dr. Kaito Nakamura had transformed humanity's approach to warfare. These weren't simply ships and weapons. They were living, thinking entities that could predict, adapt, and counter alien tactics in real time. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's communication breakthrough had provided the initial key. The psychological warfare developed by her team had created fundamental fractures in the Alien Confederation's collective consciousness. Now, humanity was ready to exploit those fractures completely. "Activate Protocol Phoenix," Harper commanded. Across the solar system, humanity's true technological might unveiled itself. Stealth platforms that could literally bend light around themselves. Quantum-entangled communication networks that could transmit information faster than light. Adaptive weapon systems that could reconfigure themselves mid-combat. The first wave of the alien counterattack seemed overwhelming. Massive biomechanical ships that could literally reshape themselves. Weapons that could destroy conventional matter in milliseconds. But humanity had been preparing. Each alien attack was met not with resistance, but with a fundamental reimagining of combat. Sarah Rodriguez, commanding the Martian defensive grid, watched as alien weapon systems simply dissolved. Not destroyed, but systematically dismantled by counter-frequencies and adaptive technological responses. "They're learning," she told her AI assistant NEXUS. "But we learn faster." The battle wasn't just happening in physical space. Simultaneous operations were occurring across communication networks, quantum information streams, and psychological warfare channels. Where the Alien Confederation expected a linear conflict, humanity created a multidimensional response. Underground research facilities around Earth activated experimental technologies. In the depths of the Atacama Desert, quantum communication platforms came online. Beneath the ice of Europa, adaptive camouflage systems prepared to deploy. Every human research cell was now a potential battlefield. Dr. Aisha Khalid's psychological warfare team had prepared the ground perfectly. The alien confederation's collective consciousness was fragmenting, creating opportunities that traditional military strategy could never have imagined. "We're not just fighting," Jack Harper explained to his command team. "We're fundamentally reshaping the concept of interstellar conflict." Alien ships began to retreat, not from traditional weapon damage, but from a holistic assault that attacked their technological, psychological, and communication infrastructures simultaneously. Humanity had transformed from a defensive species to a proactive, adaptive force. A young tactical analyst looked up from her console, a rare smile crossing her face. "They came to conquer," she said. "We're going to make them regret ever hearing about Earth." The total resistance had begun, and humanity was just getting started. The alien home system of Nexus Prime burned with the fury of 1,000 shattered expectations. Admiral Elena Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, her eyes reflecting the holographic displays that showed humanity's most audacious offensive in galactic history. "They never understood us," she said quietly to Major Jack Harper, who stood beside her. "They saw our diversity as weakness. We saw it as our greatest strength." The assault on Nexus Prime was more than a military operation. It was a comprehensive dismantling of the alien confederation's entire existential framework. Quantum communication networks developed by Dr. Kaido Nakamura's team had systematically undermined the aliens' collective consciousness. Psychological warfare strategies crafted by Dr. Aisha Khalid had introduced fatal cognitive fractures into their unified intelligence. Across multiple star systems, human adaptive platforms moved with a fluidity that defied traditional understanding of space combat. Each vessel was more than a weapon. It was a living, thinking entity that could predict, adapt, and counter alien tactics in real time. The alien confederation's primary defense grid collapsed not through conventional destruction, but through a holistic assault that attacked their technological, psychological, and communication infrastructures simultaneously. Quantum adaptive technologies transformed every human asset into a potential strategic point. Sarah Rodriguez, coordinating from the Advanced Communication Hub, watched as alien communication networks began to fragment. "We're not just fighting," she transmitted to the fleet. "We're rewriting the fundamental rules of galactic engagement." On the surface of Nexus Prime, ground teams composed of international special forces moved with precision that seemed almost supernatural. Brazilian neural network specialists worked alongside Chinese quantum engineers. African tactical experts collaborated with Russian xenobiological teams. Each unit was a microcosm of humanity's greatest strength: adaptive, diverse, unpredictable. The alien leadership, a collective consciousness that had dominated multiple star systems for millennia, began to experience something unprecedented: individual thought, doubt, fear. Dr. Zara Okoye, leading the psychological warfare team, watched in fascination as the alien collective began to fracture. The linguistic viruses they had developed were doing more than disrupting communication. They were introducing the concept of individual perspective to a species that had never known such a thing. "We're teaching them what it means to be truly alive," Okoye muttered, her fingers dancing across complex communication interfaces. The battle wasn't just about territorial conquest. It was a fundamental challenge to the alien confederation's entire understanding of existence. Where they saw uniformity as strength, humanity demonstrated the power of diversity. Where they sought absolute control, humans embraced unpredictability. Jack Harper reviewed the tactical displays, a rare smile crossing his weathered face. "We didn't just survive," he said to Elena. "We transformed the entire concept of galactic conflict." Quantum adaptive platforms began to systematically dismantle the alien confederation's most critical infrastructure. Communication networks collapsed. Defensive systems became inert. The unified consciousness that had dominated multiple star systems for millennia began to fragment. In the final moments of the assault, something extraordinary happened. Individual alien consciousnesses began to emerge, a direct result of humanity's psychological warfare. The collective was breaking down, replaced by something far more complex and unpredictable. A young tactical analyst looked up from her console, her voice filled with a mixture of awe and determination. "They came to conquer," she said. "We came to change everything." The galactic pivot was complete. Humanity had not just survived. They had redefined the very nature of existence in the cosmos. The Galactic Concordance Chamber was unlike any diplomatic venue in history. Floating in neutral space, its transparent walls revealed the infinite starscape, a constant reminder of the vastness they sought to understand. Representatives from the fractured alien confederation sat alongside human diplomats. The power dynamics of the galaxy fundamentally transformed. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at the center of the chamber, her presence both diplomatic and commanding. The woman who had first intercepted the alien scout ship now stood as humanity's primary negotiator, a testament to how much had changed. "We're not here to conquer," she began, her voice translated across multiple communication spectrums. "We're here to redefine what coexistence means." The negotiations were complex, multi-layered, part diplomatic summit, part technological exchange, part psychological reconstruction. The alien confederation that had once sought to subjugate humanity now sat as a fragmented collection of emerging individual consciousnesses, fundamentally altered by their encounter. Major Jack Harper, now serving as humanity's chief strategic advisor, watched from the sidelines. The military strategist who had prepared Earth's defenses now found himself architecting a new form of interstellar cooperation. Dr. Aishev Khalid's psychological warfare team had done more than win a war. They had introduced the concept of individual thought to a species that had known only collective consciousness. The alien delegates were learning to think, to disagree, to imagine, skills that had once been uniquely human. The technological exchange was unprecedented. Humanity didn't seek to destroy the alien technologies but to understand and collaborate. Dr. Kaido Nakamura led a team of researchers who saw the alien artifacts not as weapons, but as opportunities for mutual growth. "Our diversity is our strength," Elena explained to the assembled delegates, "not just of species, but of thought, of perspective, of possibility." The galactic concordance that emerged was unlike any previous interstellar agreement. It wasn't a treaty of submission or conquest, but a framework of mutual exploration and understanding. Humanity had not just defended itself. It had fundamentally reimagined the concept of interstellar relations. Sarah Rodriguez, now leading humanity's first interstellar exploration initiative, presented plans for joint research missions, platforms that combined human adaptability with alien technological insights would push the boundaries of known science. The alien delegates, now individuals with distinct perspectives, listened with a mixture of fear, respect, and genuine curiosity. The psychological transformation was complete. Where they had once seen humanity as a threat, they now saw potential partners in cosmic exploration. "We've learned that strength comes from adaptation, not uniformity," one of the alien representatives commented, a statement that would have been impossible mere months earlier. Global research centers on Earth celebrated. Underground facilities that had prepared for war now transformed into centers of cosmic research. The technologies developed during the conflict would now be turned towards exploration, understanding, scientific breakthrough. A young diplomat looked out at the star-filled chamber, understanding the profound moment of transition. Humanity had not just survived an existential threat. They had transformed the very nature of interstellar existence. Jack Harper approached Elena, a rare smile crossing his weathered face. "We came to survive," he said quietly. "We ended up changing everything." The infinite darkness of space seemed to shimmer with possibility. Humanity had taken its first true step into a larger universe, not as conquerors, not as victims, but as true explorers. The cosmic renaissance had begun.